Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Hey everyone, this is Landon Saunders.
And this is Nate Patterson with Cloud9 Fiber.
We're excited to finally be able to offer Lawrenceburg our blazing fast, reliable, and affordable fiber internet services.
If you're looking for a more reliable and more affordable provider, we at Cloud9 Fiber have you covered.
Plans start at $50 a month, and we can offer up to a gigabit to your home or business.
We are excited to be able to offer your first month of service entirely free. We encourage you to sign up on cloud9fiber.com or by calling 931-201-9098 so we can help you make the switch today.
The storm doesn't ask. It takes. It tests. It pushes everything to its limit. Some things are built different. Some things are built to last. Tested by the elements. Proven by time. Engineered for whatever comes next. Summertown Metals. Strength in every storm. Building dreams that last.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome into the SEC Tailgate, our Monday edition, July 28, 2025. I'm Michael Marks alongside Hayden Burks, bringing you everything you need to know for the SEC here on a hot Monday. Glad we're inside in some air conditioning. We'll get you started off with some SEC headlines. Four-star athlete Joel White has committed to Tennessee out of Shelbyville High School. That's a big pickup right there. He's the number
in
40.
Lawrence County's region.
So that's a guy that we might see here a little bit on the Exports Network coming up in the fall. So definitely a name to keep.
I don't know if Shelbyville left our region. Now I think about it. I'm not
sure. So you might see Joel White here on the Exports Network, and again, that would be. I love getting to see the talent that our schools either have or play against coming up this fall. Some kind of scary news out of Boulder. Colorado head coach Deion Sanders held a press conference today. Many people speculating about what it was because nobody had been told really what was going on, and sat down and, like you mentioned, it looked a little bit like he had lost some weight, and he got into that a little bit in his press conference, that he had bladder cancer. Yeah. And so we know all the problems he's had with his foot. I believe his right or left foot, one only has like 2 or 3 toes left. He's had some big problems with that, and there was some sort of test that he had done that had kind of brought some concern from his doctors, and they had gone through, done some tests, figured it out, and then he had a procedure that I don't know if they removed his entire bladder or what they did with that, but pretty much he is allegedly cured from this cancer.
No trace of cancer anywhere else.
Yeah, and again, those are a scary deal when it comes to stuff like that. Because speculations are coming around what the press conference was about, because it was released either earlier this morning or late last night that he had to make a will.
And that's all.
And that's when somebody at the age, he's not very old. Deion.
He's like what, mid-50s?
57. So he'll turn 58 next, and actually in the coming weeks. But again, a 58-year-old having to make a will is definitely alarming. He hadn't told his kids yet, so definitely a very scary situation out in Colorado. But again, that press conference kind of cleared everything up, let everybody know what was going on, and hopefully we'll see Coach Prime on the sidelines for Colorado this fall. Again, whether you like him or not, he's entertaining and he's brought a lot of new faces to college football. Taking the news back to Knoxville, the new jumbotrons and video boards have been installed at Thompson-Boling Arena. Again, if you'd been up there, we're definitely a bit dated, but again, I've talked about how much I love Danny White as an athletic director and what he's done for the university, and even something as little as bringing in new jumbotrons in the basketball arena can go a long way. South Carolina announces they have brought in former Georgia Tech head coach Jeff Collins as a defensive analyst for the Gamecocks. Hayden, I know we've talked about how we've kind of set our expectations a little lower for South Carolina this year compared to what they showed us last year, just because of all the talent they were losing on the defensive side of the ball. But Jeff Collins, a great defensive-minded head coach, always had good defenses at Georgia Tech. So I think that's probably a step in the right direction for South Carolina, and definitely a big pickup for the Gamecocks. Tennessee baseball's 9 draftees have all signed their contracts with the array of major league teams for a grand total of $24.77 million guaranteed. So if you want to cut a big paycheck, it seems like Knoxville might be the place to be.
Well, it's like I said, we're talking about Nick Saban overall, and if you want to go to the NFL, you play for Nick Saban.
Yep.
And I think Tony Vitello is making that case. Is if you want to go to the MLB, you play for Tony Vitello.
Yeah, and again, that Tennessee being back. Well, I'm not going to say back because they've never really been this dominant, but being in the upper portion of the SEC with the likes of Vanderbilt and Florida and LSU and Arkansas, it's kind of interesting just because we're not used to being there. So Tennessee fans, so to speak, don't know how to act because we haven't been there yet. But it's made college baseball really fun. And again, similar to Coach Prime, whether you like him or not, Tony Vitello has brought a lot of eyes to college baseball. And we've seen over the past 3 or 4 years how much traction college baseball has gained. And if it continues at this rate, I mean, the sky's the limit for college baseball because it's always kind of been lacking behind football and basketball, and in the sense of viewership numbers, just because it's so hard to put all the games on TV. I mean, you see 90% of team schedules aren't actually televised games, so
especially because they're cross splitting with each other while basketball's still going on. Yeah, then you got baseball. That's the
thing is the first month and a half of baseball season is still going into college basketball
during March Madness.
Yeah, because you don't get the championship game for college basketball until early April, and college baseball has been going on since almost Valentine's Day.
They're getting like ESPN Plus and like those games where it's just streamed on the SEC and there's no commercials. There's literally just the game.
It's just the game.
Yep, it's just the game, and then between innings they'll do a full screen of
the wide shot of the stadium.
The wide shot of the stadium, and then just a little score recap of what's been going on.
Yeah, I mean, and while that's cool and all, I think that I'm not saying that Tennessee getting players drafted is going to make college baseball a big deal, but what I'm saying is that we're getting more talent across the SEC that. Maybe it'll be an easier way to watch games, maybe more televised games, because, again, they're having to fight with basketball and stuff like that. And obviously softball is going on as well. And baseball and softball in the SEC is going on every day, 9 times a week, whatever. It's crazy. Colin Cowherd on his show last Monday, actually reveals why he thinks that the Big Ten has become the premier conference in college football over the SEC. He says Big Ten money is Hollywood, tech, and financial centers. There's just a lot of car dealerships in the SEC. Which,
I mean,
he's got a point.
He's got a point.
Once the Big Ten added USC and UCLA, sure, that Hollywood and tech and financial centers, maybe that became viable, but UCLA and USC weren't holding up the Pac-12 when they were there because they were really never the top dog. I mean, UCLA was good in the 90s, USC was good in the 2000s, but really, since then, I don't think much.
It's still the original people that are in the Big Ten that are carrying the weight for, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan.
Now, it would be different if he said this if say UCLA last year, just for example, came in and won the Big Ten. Yeah, okay, you could say that. But, I mean, that's just, it feels just a little ignorant, so to speak, just because, sure, there's a lot of car dealerships in the SEC and stuff like that, but that's not where they're getting all their money from. I mean, the SEC is getting all their money from their guys that get drafted and go to the NFL and boosters and stuff like that. That it just feels like a bit of a uneducated opinion. But again, that's kind of what Colin Cowherd's known for. But again, I will agree. I think over the past 2 years, the Big Ten's probably been better than the SEC. Not top to bottom, but they've won the national championship and they've been very competitive. It's definitely kind of started to it's definitely started the question around the country of, is the SEC the top dog anymore? Now, usually it's not people. Usually the people making these statements are people that probably wouldn't be able to compete in the SEC stuff. We've seen Rhett Lashley, the head coach from SMU, have his statements. Obviously Kurt Cignetti at Indiana. We talked about that one last week. So definitely some strong opinions.
I think top to bottom, the SEC is deeper than the Big Ten. Now, but the best teams in the nation belong to the Big Ten.
Yeah, I would say like top. Yeah, I think that you're probably right looking at teams like Ohio State is the best team in the country. Maybe not this year, but obviously they were last year, in Michigan 2 years ago. Whether they were cheating or not, they were the best team in the country that year. So it definitely starts to rise some questions about the SEC getting back on top. Maybe Texas can change that this year, Georgia, Alabama, somebody like that. We'll move over to Bluegrass Country. Kentucky head coach Mark Stoops is kind of confident with the direction the House settlement and the executive orders have impacted NIL and what that will mean for Kentucky going forward. In a press conference, he said, "I do feel like as we move forward with the support of the administration in particular, as we guided through this year and where we're going with the future, I really feel like we could be put in position to be on a really good ground. I haven't always felt this way, so that excites me. I feel like as we move forward, these past 2 years, 3 years have been rough. I really feel like that we're in a position over the next 2 to 3 years to be in a really good position. This comes after reports that Kentucky will be spending $45% of their $20.5 million revenue spending budget that each school can pay the players on men's basketball for the upcoming 2025-26 season." So again, Kentucky, did not have a good season last year. Obviously, went I believe 4-8 and 1-7 in conference, and we heard the concerns from Mark Stoops that he felt like football was kind of being left behind in the scheme of basketball coming up in the future.
Yeah, I mean, just overall, we look at the direction of Kentucky football, and then just we know what they are in basketball. And I think Stoops does have a point to kind of be concerned about what the future of Kentucky football looks like compared to how much endorsement they're getting from the university when it comes to them and the men's basketball program. Now, again, we all know that Kentucky is known for their men's basketball, but like you said, Stoops over the past couple of years, not these past few years, but before that, they've had some good teams.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat Tennessee 2 times within that stretch too. And so overall, I think just you look at the foundation of where Kentucky is football-wise right now, and you want to be able to get back to where you were probably about maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So we'll see how it comes. But then again, I just kind of have concerns about, okay, well, I understand where Stoops is coming from, and I know that you're known for your men's basketball, but there might be a Title IX violation.
Yeah, and that's the thing we're talking.
Sports.
Yeah, because obviously that 45% sounds really high because it is. I mean, that's $9 million, almost $10 million. Yeah, almost half of your money right there going to men's basketball. And again, we've talked about it. Kentucky is a basketball school, but that's leaving 55% for every other sport, and that is baseball, softball, women's basketball, football. They have to spread out the money that they are paying the athletes.
Golf,
they already
swim,
Kentucky
sports,
Kentucky's really good at volleyball, so that's a lot of money, or not a lot of money that you have to kind of distribute through a lot of players.
Yeah,
because obviously football and that's almost 100 kids. Baseball, obviously, in softball those numbers have been cut, but that's still 25, 30 kids that you're trying to keep there with that money. These aren't people you're bringing in. But again, I think he's a fan of leveling, and Mark Stoops is, and the fact that this executive order essentially, or what it's trying to do, is level the playing field.
Yep.
And obviously, I think that after the next couple of years, Kentucky will probably start lowering that number, because that 45% is 3 times higher than most schools are spending, and 15% of that, I mean, that's still $3 or $4 million. It's a lot of money, but it allows a lot more money to go in a lot different places. But then again, we're seeing schools like Texas and Ohio State that are able to spend $30 and $40 million on their team, when Kentucky, even if they get that other 55% of that $20 million, is still only $11 million.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just see a whole lot of red flags in that article that came out.
Yeah, it definitely does. But hey, coming up, we're going to continue our year-end review as we go through a couple more SEC schools. We got Georgia and Kentucky coming up next here on the SEC Tailgate.
Here at Fields and Brown Barbershop, legacy means a lot. We're trying to fill big shoes left by my 2 uncles and my grandfather, where every haircut came with conversation and every customer left a little taller than when they walked in. The barbershop is about pride. It's about knowing your barber knows your name and your story. Come see us at Fields and Brown Barbershop, where tradition never goes out of style. 3 generations, 1 legacy, your barbershop.
Good Works at Home, formerly known as the Summit at Home, is a licensed non-skilled agency dedicated to helping you maintain your independence at home for as long as possible. Our compassionate and caring staff provide support in various areas, including dressing, bathing, personal hygiene, transportation, cleaning, and companionship. Please call our office about services, payment options, and long-term care policies at 931-762-2310. We look forward to assisting you with keeping your independence longer.
Volco Auto Supply in Lawrenceburg has a legacy of being a family-owned and operated company. Since 1927, our business has grown and evolved into today's one-stop source for all your automotive supplies. But in that time, one thing has stayed the same, and that's our commitment to our customers and their needs. At Volco Auto Supply, you'll find everything for your car, truck, or even fleet of vehicles, but with good old-fashioned customer service the way it needs to be. That's Volco Auto Supply, 416 Buffalo Road in Lawrenceburg. Visit VolcoAuto.com.
At Lawrenceburg Federal Bank, we're proud to be locally owned and operated because we're not just a bank, we're family. When you call, you'll be greeted by a friendly representative who's ready to discuss your banking needs, as well as offer our competitive rates on CDs and money market accounts. Our loan decisions are made in-house and never sold to a secondary market because our commitment is simple. You matter to us. At Lawrenceburg Federal, we offer all the conveniences of larger banks with a personal touch. Join us at Lawrenceburg Federal Bank, where community, trust, and service come together.
Make your lawn a legacy. At Legacy Lawn and Landscapes, we put more than 16 years of experience into your goals. We won't meet your expectations, we'll exceed them. We offer consultation, installation, maintenance, hardscapes, construction, and land clearing services. Owner John and Jamie Brewer with their team are dedicated to providing the highest quality landscape services to commercial and residential clients in Middle Tennessee. Service, teamwork, results. That's how you leave a legacy.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome back to the SEC Tailgate. Michael Marks, Hayden Burks, and we are continuing our year-end review series. We started it last week looking at pretty much the 5 big sports at every SEC school: football, men's and women's basketball, baseball, and softball. Kind of looking how every SEC team did in comparison to what their expectations were, and then pretty much what some of the big milestones were. If you were here Friday, we did Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, and Florida. And continuing in alphabetical order, today we'll be looking at Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, and Mississippi State. So we'll start at the top with the Dogs. Football, 11-3, 6-2 in conference play. They lost in the Sugar Bowl to Notre Dame, 23-10. Finished 6th in the final AP poll. Their best win of the year was at number 1 Texas, 30-15, and they finished 2nd in the SEC. Going on to men's basketball, they went 20-13, 8-10 in conference play. Lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament to Gonzaga, 89-68. Obviously finished unranked. Their best win, they had a big win, that 88-83 win over number 3 Florida. That ended up being the Gators' last loss on February 25th, and finished 11th in conference play. Women's basketball, 13-19, 4-12 in conference play. Obviously no postseason with that or final AP ranking. Their best win was actually their last regular season game against number 11 Tennessee, where they won 72-69, and they finished 12th in the SEC. Baseball, 43-17, 18-12 in conference play. Lost in their own home regional to Duke and Oklahoma State. They finished 10th in the final D1 baseball poll, and their best win was a series win against number 1 Arkansas, and they finished 5th in the SEC. And then softball went 35-23, 7-16 in conference play, lost to Florida in the Super Regionals in 3 games, and they finished 17th in the final D1 softball poll. And their best win was against Duke twice in the Durham Regional, where they won that one 2-1, and they finished 12th in the SEC. So looking at Georgia, obviously they were the projected favorite to win the SEC last year, finished second, so obviously met expectations there. But still kind of felt like a down year. It felt weird that you kind of just felt like Georgia was done for, even though they made the playoff where I believe they were the number 2 team.
Number 2 seed.
Number 2 overall seed. So, but still, just kind of the way the season ended, I'm going to give them a B.
I'm going to give them a C just because, we look at the dominance that Georgia has had over the past few years. And I don't know, it just felt weird. It felt like, Carson Beck just didn't have the right mindset at all.
It felt like going in from 2 years ago, from the 2023 season to 2024, he looked like a completely different guy, and not in a good way.
It felt like they were beatable at any point. It felt like they were beatable at any point compared to in the past. It was like, oh, Georgia marked down the loss.
Well, I think Tennessee had them 10-0 in Athens last year. Yeah. I mean, obviously they lost to Ole Miss, lost to Alabama, had some close games elsewhere. Obviously, Florida gave them a push. For most of the middle of the season, I mean, it went from every game just being, okay, Georgia's got this, to, man, if they could slip up, because Carson Beck was turning the ball over, and when you're giving a team 2 or 3 extra possessions, when you already were kind of down, so to speak, from years past, and the only reason they got the B for me was just that win at Texas. That was just impressive enough to kind of, I guess, win me over, so to speak. Men's basketball, they finished predicted to finish 12th, finished 11th, obviously. It felt like a bit of a down year for Georgia basketball, but again, not bad. I gave them a B.
Yeah, I'll give them a B too.
Because, they had some big wins. Obviously, it didn't go the way they wanted to. I think they have high expectations under Mike White. But again, the SEC was so tough last year that honestly finishing 11th is not that bad.
And making the tournament for the first time in who knows how many years for Georgia.
Yeah. Women's basketball predicted 14th, finished 12th. Honestly, really anywhere 11 through 16 for women's basketball in the SEC. Women's sports, and you'll see this when we start going through softball, is so top heavy.
Yes.
That the teams that are good are really good, and the teams that aren't good are.
It's kind of like the Big Ten in football. Where you got the leaders and then you got the rest.
Yeah, if you watch Ohio State play Rutgers, it's not going to be, even on even. So, game of C. Obviously, that win at Tennessee was kind of the thing that boosted them up from being around the 14 to 15 range. Baseball projected 5th, projected 6th, finished 5th. I give them an A.
Yeah, I would too.
And the only thing that would make me think B is just their postseason wasn't very good. They haven't under Wes Johnson, they haven't had very good postseason success. Obviously, they made the Super Regional last year, but I don't believe they've won a game at Hoover under him yet in the 2 years. So definitely starting to maybe bring up some questions about postseason success. But Georgia, their offense is
they were around that 3 to 12 range the entire season.
Yeah, the whole season. Yeah. Softball projected 8th, finished 12th. Was a little disappointing, so I gave them a C for that one.
Same here.
But again, they made the Super Regional. It's just the SEC is so good in softball that even making the Super Regional, it's a good thing. But maybe expectations are set a little higher. So, again, overall for Georgia, their total expectations, it was -1, so and pretty much the difference was football. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously, softball wasn't great, but women's basketball, and men's basketball and baseball all exceeded expectations. And they got a bonus of 21 points, obviously, from that extra scoring scale that we talked about Friday. Again, if your best win is a top 25 team, you get an extra point. As a top 10 team, you get 2 points. Top 5, 3 points. If your final ranking in the top 25 is top 25, you get a point. Top 10, 2 points. Top 3, 5 points. And then if you make the postseason, you get a point. If you advance in the postseason, which is either making the playoffs, Sweet 16, or a Super Regional, you get 2 points, and the national champion 3 points. Now we'll hop over to Kentucky. Obviously, we talked about it in our first segment. Not a football school. They were predicted to be 11th in the SEC. They finished 15th out of 16 teams. Was not a great year. Obviously, 4-8, 1-7 in conference play. Their lone conference win was that upset at Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. They finished 15th in the SEC out of 16 teams. Not much good to talk about.
I gotta give them an F.
They were obviously not predicted to be very good at 11th, but
they were worse.
They were worse than expected with already low expectations. So, an easy F right there. Men's basketball, on the other hand, it was a loaded SEC, and you didn't know what to think of with Mark Pope coming in at his first year. They had a completely new team. Predicted to finish 8th. They finished 6th. I'd give them a B for the year, just because obviously if you look at their record, they went 24-12, which you look at Kentucky and you think 24-12, you're like, man, that is not a very good year, but they made the Sweet 16, where obviously they lost to that team in orange. They finished 12th in the AP poll. They had that, obviously, their best win against Florida, that 106-100 thriller to open up SEC play. I mean, I think they blew expectations out of the water. I think Mark Pope is an excellent coach, and because there were multiple games that they lost that they probably should have won, but vice versa, there were a couple of games that they won that they probably shouldn't have, like maybe this Florida game. So I give them a B for men's basketball. Women's basketball, I'm going to go ahead and give them a B as well.
Yep, same here.
They did not have a good year last year. Yep. Not very good at all, but they went 23-8 this year. 11-5 in conference. They brought in a lot of transfers. That obviously Georgia Amore, their best player, came in from Virginia Tech with her coach. They lost in the second round in overtime to Kansas State, a game that I would assume every Lady Cat would like back. Finished 13th in the final AP poll, 4th in the SEC. Their best win at Oklahoma, 95-86. That was Georgia Amore's 43-point game, her season high. So obviously had some high highs, had a little bit of low lows, obviously, with how the season ended. But I think for women's basketball, at least, the future is bright in Lexington. We'll go on to baseball. We're projected to finish 10th in the SEC. Obviously, their season didn't go as well as they had hoped. Lost a lot of talent from the year before. And Nick Mingione tried to put together the best team he had. They finished 13th. You look at their season as a whole, 31-26. They made the postseason controversially. We're one of I think they were the 13th SEC team that made it, which that's a lot. I mean, 13 out of the 64 teams that made the tournament. Obviously, they lost in the Clemson Regional lost both games to West Virginia, who went on to play LSU. Finished unranked in the final D1 baseball poll. Their best win, they had a good series win when Tennessee was number 4 in the country. They went to Knoxville and beat them 2 out of 3 times, and they finished 13th in the conference. So obviously, not a great year. But not a bad year. I'm going to give them a C.
I'm going to give them a D. I mean, just because they've had high highs and high lows this past year. Of course, you lose a lot, too, from last year, depending on them making the World Series last year. And so I'll give them a D.
Obviously, expectations are high going into next year. Softball, they went 31-28, 7-17 in conference play. We're predicted to finish 11th. They finished 13th, so a little disappointing for Kentucky softball. They lost in the Baton Rouge Regional. They lost in the Clemson Regional as well as the baseball team to Northwestern and Clemson. They were unranked in the final D1 baseball poll. Their best win was against Ole Miss in a series. They won 2 games, and they finished 13th in the SEC. So obviously, there weren't many highlights from the year, but I'm going to give them a C just because obviously Kentucky's not known for their softball. They've had good years, as everyone in the SEC does, but obviously this was not one of them.
I give them a D. In my opinion.
Yeah. So obviously, not the greatest year for Kentucky athletics. -3 on the expectation scale, only 16 points. So again, not a great year for them. But obviously, with I think basketball will probably be close to the top next year. Women's basketball will probably be pretty good. Nick Mingione is a great baseball coach. I think baseball will be turning things around, as is softball. Football, on the other hand, probably in a tough spot for a couple of years. Yeah. The upcoming years, as Mark Stoops fights for a little more NIL money. We'll take a break, but when we come back, we'll finish out these last 2 teams, LSU and Mississippi State, coming up next here on the SEC Tailgate.
For the best meal from south of the border, head to Cocina Real and Puente Grande for lunch and dinner. With a wide array of mouth-watering entrees, there's something for everyone on the menu. And you can't forget the cheese dip. They'll treat you like family, and you'll never leave hungry. Make Cocina Real Mexican Restaurant and Puente Grande Mexican Restaurant your choice for authentic cuisine, located in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee.
Welcome to the newly remodeled Brass Lantern. For over 30 years, we've been serving delicious food to excellent people. Brass Lantern takes pride in authenticity, serving fresh, homemade food to please any member of the family. From mouth-watering to one-of-a-kind steaks served with gourmet marinade, to salad with our signature honey mustard dressing, specialty fruit tea, drafts, and much more. Our food is always prepared daily. Whether you come in with friends or family, you'll appreciate that fresh is better.
Cause when I cross that county line, just off Highway 49, it all makes perfect sense. Man, I live for this.
There are now more ways to save at Quick Mart. Become a Quick Club member and easily earn rewards on qualifying purchases at Quick Mart convenience stores using the Quick Club app, available in the Apple App Store and Google Play. To save on fuel for work, use the Fuel Rewards Pro app to earn 5 cents a gallon on work fill-ups and redeem the savings for yourself. To get started, visit fuelrewards.com/pro or download the app in the Apple App Store and Google Play.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to the final segment here on the SEC Tailgate. Michael Marks, Hayden Burks. And obviously, Hayden, we just went over Georgia and Kentucky. Overall, neither team really met total expectations coming to the year. Georgia was a lot closer than Kentucky was. Now we'll move down to Baton Rouge for the LSU Tigers. Obviously, now compared to expectations for everybody else, they did the worst. I'll just go ahead and put it that way, just because the standard at LSU is already so high for most of their sports that it was going to be hard to meet them anyway. Obviously, they were predicted to be 5th in the SEC this year in football, finished 9th. But I mean, you just look at their whole body of work here. I'll read you. 9-4 overall, went 5-3 in conference play. They won the Texas Bowl against Baylor, 44-31. Finished unranked in the AP poll, and that was due to some late season struggles. Their best win was an overtime win against number 9 Ole Miss, and they finished 9th in the conference. Some of those don't really add up. Like being unranked and finishing 9th in the SEC at 9-4 is insane.
Yeah.
But obviously, I mean, you remember that loss to LSU. They got smoked by Alabama. That loss to Florida. All coming pretty much. I think all 3 of them were consecutive. So it was definitely a bit of a tough look. I don't think football went as bad as necessarily it looked. I gave them a C for football this year.
Yeah, I did too.
Nussmeier coming back, I think they're going to have an excellent team this year. I don't think it'll be, I think probably a 10-win team. It's just, they had a tough year last year. Obviously, Nussmeier had some turnover problems, but I think coming back next year, he'll be looking a lot better. Men's basketball, very forgettable. 14-18 last year, 3-15 in conference play, no postseason, no ranking. Their best win was only against Arkansas. They only had, obviously, those 3 conference wins. It was hard to pick which one was the best because one of them was against South Carolina. One of them was against Oklahoma. They finished 15th out of 16 in the SEC. Were projected to finish 14th, so obviously expectations weren't too high. I gave them a C, again, just because.
I give them a D just because you don't ever think of LSU basketball except Shaq.
And again, they had some talent. It was just not a very good year for Matt McMahon and company. Hopefully they can maybe turn that around in the near future. Now, women's basketball is something that the Bayou Bengals really love. Kim Mulkey, 31-6 overall last year, went 12-4 in conference play, and we got some sirens going by. They lost in the Elite Eight to UCLA, who people remember how good they were last year. Very good team. Finished 10th in the final AP poll. They had their best win was against Oklahoma. You'll see that 3 of the 4 women's team's best wins were against Oklahoma. I promise we're not picking on them, but they had some. They were a big win for some teams. Finished third in the SEC. That was their expectations. I obviously think getting stuck playing UCLA in the Elite Eight. I mean, obviously by the time you get to the Elite Eight, everybody's going to be good. But I gave them a B.
I give them an A just because you look at LSU and just how dominant they've been the past few years of how good they brought teams in and out, making the Elite Eight, winning the national championship. Against Iowa that year. So I give them an A just because the expectation's so high and they keep on
and the only thing the only thing that kept me from an A is when I was looking through their schedule, looking for their best wins and stuff like that, is they did not really have a tough schedule at all, and that's not necessarily their fault. They can't control who's good and who's not good. It's just that really their only big ranked win was Oklahoma. I mean, they beat most of those, the 16 to 25 range. They just didn't have a lot of top 5 matchups that they won. Obviously, they didn't beat South Carolina, didn't beat Texas, but really handled business against everybody else pretty well. Baseball predicted to finish 4th in the SEC, finished 3rd. Obviously, we know 55 and 13 or 53 and 15, 19 and 11 in conference, won the national championship game and 2 games against Coastal Carolina, finished 1st in the country, 3rd in the SEC, won a series against Arkansas. I mean, it's hard to give them anything but an A+ for this year. I mean, a great year for Jay Johnson. Continues to kind of keep LSU
set
up
the bar.
keeps the expectations high. Because this year, I was talking about it with some family this weekend, that this year's college baseball wasn't about home runs and scoring a lot of runs. It was who had the best pitching staff, and LSU had two of the best pitchers in the country.
And Arkansas were the 2 best pitching staffs in the league.
And notice how they were probably the 2 best baseball teams in the country. Hard to give them anything but an A+. Softball. LSU softball was projected to finish 6th in the SEC, finished 9th, but again, SEC sent, I believe, 13 of their 15 teams to the NCAA tournament. So, as long as you're not one of those bottom 2 teams, you're doing all right. Went 42 and 16, 12 and 12 in conference play. So obviously, very impressive 30 and 4 record outside of conference play. Lost in their own regional though to the 4 seed. Southeast Louisiana kind of came in and spanked everybody.
Yep.
So.
I give a C.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, expectations heading into the postseason were very high, and then they got shot down real quick. Obviously, I mean, they had some good wins. They had a series win against Florida. They finished top 10 in the SEC. But just kind of the way the season ended, it put a sour taste in the mouth of LSU fans. And now we head on to Mississippi State.
Starkville.
Stark Vegas was not doing very good this year. 2-10 this year in football. 0-8 in conference play. Not a single conference win. No postseason. Obviously no ranking. And their best win. Didn't have much to choose from. I had 2 games to choose from, and I picked UMass because that was the one FBS team they beat this last year. 45-20, finished last in the SEC. Was not a great year for Mississippi State. Wasn't supposed to be a very good year for Mississippi State. But I gave them a C just because it wasn't supposed to be good. It wasn't good. But hopefully things are starting to trend up for Jeff Lebby.
Yeah, I'll give him a D just because Jeff Lebby, hopefully things trend up. You lost your starting quarterback due to injury. So I'll give him a D. I think, they're, I'm not going to say they're going to shoot up the charts, but
I think
it's brick by brick.
Yeah, let's go Butch.
Yeah.
Butch Jones, yeah. Men's basketball, though, was a bit of a bright spot for the program this year. 21-13, 8-10 in conference play. Lost a heartbreaker to Baylor in the first round. I don't think it mattered if you won that game. You were going to lose to Duke the next time over. Finished unranked in the final AP poll, but was ranked pretty much most of the regular season. Their best win was a 16-point win against Texas A&M. Finished 10th in the conference. Actually met expectations. They were predicted to finish 10th. They did finish 10th. Had some good wins. Obviously didn't have the postseason success that some SEC programs had, but I think that's all in all a pretty good year for Mississippi State. I gave them a B, just because I think they're trending up. I love Chris Lemonis. He's similar to Rick Barnes in the style that he likes to play, that tough defensive basketball, and that makes it fun to watch sometimes, like a 70-54 game. I mean, sure, 70 points isn't anything to go home about, but you held a team to 54.
Exactly.
Women's basketball, again, we've seen Mississippi State be near the top. in the last decade. Not as great this year, obviously, but still pretty consistent. 22-12, 7-9. Got stuck having to play in they were a 9 seed in the tournament. So they were going to have to play a 1 seed in the second round if they won. That 1 seed was USC, who beat them up pretty good, 96-59. Finished unranked in the final AP poll. Did have a top 10 win against Oklahoma, though, 81-77, and finished 10th in the SEC. All around a pretty good year, but again, just
average.
Yeah, average, and that's why I'm giving them a C.
Same here.
Wasn't really anything to go home about. Baseball is a bit of conflicting one. They went 36-23, 15-15, made the postseason. Lost in the Tallahassee Regional, obviously, to a very good Florida State team that was a win away from making it to the College World Series. Yep. They finished unranked in the final D1 baseball poll. Their best win, they had a series win at Alabama. Finished 11th in the conference. They had a really, really, really bad start to conference play.
They did.
They fired their head coach, who had won them a national championship before, and they rode with their interim, who got them to the postseason. There was no chance they were making the postseason if you watched the first half of conference play. Much better afterwards. I'm giving them a C, just because if you fire your coach, I can't give you like a A or a B.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Just can't.
Unless
they went on and like won the national championship. In that case, they get an A. But tough year. But obviously, they've hired Brian O'Connor. I think things are looking very up for Mississippi State baseball in the coming years. And now on to softball. Actually exceeded expectations. Were predicted to finish 12th, finished 8th in conference. 39-19, went 13-11 in conference play. Didn't make it out of the regional, but they got stuck. They had to go play at Texas Tech, who didn't know at the time, but ended up being in the national championship in the Women's College World Series final. They finished 23rd in the final D1 softball poll. Their best win was a sweep of Ole Miss, and there's nothing Mississippi State likes doing more than beating Ole Miss, and they finished 8th in the conference. All around a pretty good year. I think they would have made a much more substantial run if you didn't have to play Texas Tech in that regional. So I'm going to give them a B.
Same here. Yep, B for me as well.
All right, so as we come to the conclusion here, we're going to rank these 4 schools, and I think we've pretty much come to a consensus. I think we're going to go with LSU at number 1, just because they're consistently good at everything except men's basketball, really. Mm-hmm. And that can only go up from here. Obviously, we think football is going to be good. Women's basketball is always good. Baseball will probably be good again, and softball as well. Number 2, Georgia.
Yep, I'd say so.
Football is still at the top. They're
a lot of question marks, but they're still at the top.
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's going to be a young team, but I think they'll still be Georgia. Men's basketball, I think they'll be a little better this year because I don't think the SEC is going to be as strong. So I think they're going to have the potential to be a little bit better. Women's basketball, they've had good years. They've had bad years. This one was a little bit in between. I think they can do a little better, but obviously with what they had last year, I think that they did all right. Baseball was very good. I think they'll continue to trend upwards, but they probably got to start working on some a better pitching staff if they want to make a substantial run.
We're going to work on that transfer portal.
And then softball obviously was pretty much right where it needed to be. Third, we're going to go. Did we say Kentucky for 3?
I think we got to. I think we have to with men's basketball and just overall.
I would say
I think the women's basketball set them over the top.
Yeah. And the men's and women's basketball, when it comes to the hardwood, Kentucky's almost as good as it comes, just across the board.
45%.
Yeah, 45% of your money's worth. And obviously, you can see how if that continues to trend, that football is going to continue to not be very good. Yeah. Baseball and softball have potential, but who knows? Yeah. And then rounding out in last place with actually the team that exceeded expectations the most, Mississippi State.
It was a coin flip between them and Kentucky for me.
Yeah.
I had to put Kentucky just because, like I said, women's basketball set over the top, in my opinion, to put them over Mississippi State.
Yeah, and again, Mississippi State, the expectations weren't really high in anything except, baseball, their ninth place projection was the highest finish that they were supposed to have in any sport. And obviously they didn't finish in the top 10 in anything but softball. So definitely got some ground to cover. But Mississippi State rounding out these 4 schools for this episode of SEC Tailgate. We will be back Wednesday. Wednesday we got Missouri, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and the Big Orange. So we'll have a little fun talking about them, and we'll finish up these rankings on Friday. So for Michael Marks and Hayden Burks, this has been the SEC Tailgate. Have a good day. We'll see you Wednesday.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.